Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm Bernadette Bulacan, and welcome to the Fast Tract. I'm so excited to welcome our guest today, Manish Kedia of CloudMoyo. Manish, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your team at CloudMoyo, and what you do.
Bernadette, thanks so much for having us, and thanks for this opportunity. As you rightly said, I'm Manish Kedia. I'm the CEO and co-founder for CloudMoyo. At CloudMoyo, what our focus has been on digital solutions and services that will look at both end-to-end business process, legal advisory, including implementations for contract intelligence and then application innovation and AI. So very excited to be here and talk to you and to our customers and listeners.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I am a big fan of contract intelligence and CLM and believe that the technology is so incredibly powerful. But I also appreciate that it is a journey to get there, obviously, with implementations. And so I'm curious if you have two or three best practices as organizations are thinking about the journey that they need to go on to experience and achieve contract intelligence. What are the two or three best practices that organizations should think about to be ready for their implementation?
Very, very pertinent. You're right. I think planning and starting successfully leads to successful outcomes. And the three sort of classic areas we will look at first and foremost is the business process and outcome. Contract intelligence cuts across the organization, and we'll work with customers to identify, is this getting anchored in the legal team? Is this going to support source to pay, quote to cash, or other myriad business processes, and what the outcome is? Contracts have a lot of intelligence and knowledge that's trapped into it. So how do you unlock that? So that's one first big practice is what are the business outcomes in business process. Second, picking the right partner and the right platform and understanding the nuances. In this case, obviously, we work very closely with Icertis, Microsoft, really unlocking that platform and how it will create the best outcomes for our customers. Third, but the most important is people. People want change, but always still resist change. And to me, anytime we automate business processes for efficiency, planning change management, and across all tiers, right, whether it is the actual business users, the business administrators, or it is the actual leadership, you need to plan change management both broadly and deeply. And if you do those three things, I think you're going to get a very successful outcome.
Yeah, I love this idea that you just brought up, having the outcome in mind and making sure that everyone that's involved in the process understands that outcome. Your second point about platform and partner. And I think there's a third P in there too about process that will really help you be ready and to know who your best partners is, understand the partner deeply in the platform and the process. I'm repeating myself, but the people, I'm so glad that you brought that up because the change management, I think, cannot be underestimated. I'm curious about, one or two thoughts that you have about change management as people are going through the journey. There's so much thinking about the process. Any change management best practices that you like your customers and clients to keep in mind?
Yeah, you're right. I think just to summarize, you're right. Is the classic three-way, the people process platform. On the change management, again, I think obviously starts with the people in. One and foremost is how will their role get impacted, whether you are in the legal team, procurement team, sales team, and they will all have three different perspectives as to how they consume this platform and technology. It's not one size fits all. So making sure you get each of your business users ready for that area. And second is how will this system or platform manifest itself? It could manifest as a standalone system as Icertis in its own UX, or it could manifest in Word, it could manifest in Teams, or it would manifest actually within SAP or Salesforce. That's the richness of the platform that we bring. So making sure those are clearer, because they can help change management. Depending on where business users are more comfortable using and consuming this information, it's very helpful.
Yeah. You've advised on so many of our implementations. I'm curious, are there certain attributes to these A plus implementations? Is there something that these companies have done, whether it is in preparation or mindset? Obviously, choosing a great partner is critical in that. But anything, any other considerations that make for an A plus implementation?
Yeah, again, I agree. Very obviously, getting the right partners, the right platform, and the implementation partners is super critical. But most importantly, beginning with an outcome and objective. So, which business process are we going to impact, and what's the outcome? Very important to clearly articulate that. Second, where we've won big time is if there is leadership commitment at the customer of that business process. So whether this transformation is anchored by legal, IT, procurement, but having leadership commitment and understanding, that's the second biggest area. And then third, every project has its hurdles, I will say, and you got to jump through and win, just like we did through the Olympics. So making sure there's strong governance and collaboration, that's really the three sort of legged stool, I will. If you have those three pillars laid out, I think the outcome is amazing, and there's a lot of value that is delivered to customers.
Yeah, I really appreciate all of those three pillars are certainly critical. You know, we were talking about success with your CLM implementation, the processes to automate that contract process. Obviously, AI is on the top of everyone's mind. And I don't want to talk necessarily about AI use cases, but I want to talk to you about, again, how leadership can help prepare for AI, how companies should look at their processes now to usher in AI. How do you think organizations who have embraced AI, what have they done to create a digital mindset to prepare them for this new advanced technology?
Yeah, very, very true. I think you and I are living in this sort of new generation that will really unleash a lot of productivity and efficiency using AI. And there are various facets. The most successful companies will first and foremost envision where these use cases are. And I know we're not going to talk through that. We'll come back and review that at a later date. However, once you've envisioned that, really setting the foundation and the layer and the operations layer. What I mean by that is we are very used to doing in the IT world, DevOps and analytics. Uh, in order to embrace AI, you almost need to start thinking of knowledge ops and creating a center of excellence around knowledge. What I mean by that is no longer just the data that is trapped in your deep data systems like SAP and ERP or Salesforce, but it's the actual contracts, which means I need to get access to the data no matter what format, where they are coming in from. And I have to have a mechanism to process them, make that data available to Icertis platform, and then all sorts of innovations possible. And what we found is customers need to do a lot more thought thought earlier on, not just to look at the scenarios, but preparing their knowledge operations using the data and then the processing that we'll do to it. And that's where it's been amazing, where you can unlock a lot of opportunities. Otherwise, you get stuck in POCs because you can't really unleash all the data. And once you do, then you have tremendous amount of value that gets unlocked.
I don't know if you saw me, I wrote down knowledge operations. I love that concept of it and knowledge management, especially because as you describe and we both know, there's so much data and knowledge that is static in a paper contract. And when you digitize it, you unleash all of that intelligence and knowledge. I love this idea of knowledge operations. But you also bring a really great point up when you talk about knowledge operations embracing AI, which is that there is knowledge that's in the contracts, but we also know that there is that contract feeds other systems, SAP, other ERP systems. It is fed by other systems for the contracting process. So we know that in an implementation, one of the most complex considerations is on integrations to automate the process, to make sure you have the best and greatest data available to you. Any thoughts on how you would advise an organization, again, as they are mapping the road for implementation, how they should approach their integration strategy such that they're really successful, because it is an area that can be so complex.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think the best customers will think of integration again in the context of the business process that they're working on. And you're right. I think the journey, a lot of people start the journey with contracting. Truly, where CloudMoyo and Icertis differentiate themselves as contracting definitely is the foundation, but contract performance and ongoing contract, because it's a living document. And when you fuse that with ERP data or CRM or sourcing, that's where all the intelligence and value gets unlocked. So what we advise customers is to envision the entire business process, which includes starting at contracting, all the contract performance, all the order management and operations, and then closing the loop so you can make sure you're improving, whether it is procurement, whether it is revenue, whether it is payment terms, and really managing either to create new margins, save margins, or create new revenues, identify loopholes. That's really where integrations work. Now, from a technology perspective, as I said earlier too, we can create integrations that are seamless to the business user experience, where the integration could live in SAP, Oracle, Salesforce, or it could be a data level integration where both systems cooperate and talk to each other. And then also now the third leg, where we're starting to think about this knowledge of saying, how are we going to get this knowledge on an ongoing basis? So we'll do all those three.
Yeah.
Bernadette.
No, I'm reminded of a World CC data point that on average, CLM feeds an average of 14 to 15 systems in an enterprise, and I actually think that number is probably even too small when you think about all of the areas that touch contracting and individuals, teams, and systems that need that information from their contracts. We've talked a lot about the journey into implementation, and I know it's often to arrive at launch day or go live, which is always such a celebration. But we always know that that is just a point in time, and there is ongoing continual improvement to the system and to the process, and that the system lives obviously beyond launch date. Any considerations that you would want to share about maintenance and long-term success post-launch day? Because I think everyone works heads down trying to get to that date. But again, it is those like a contract that has a life beyond execution, the signing and execution. There is a life, obviously, with CLM beyond launch date. So tell us a little bit about how you advise and guide these teams to live beyond launch.
Yeah, in fact, you're right. I think a lot of teams and companies will think of the launch date as the end of the project. And to me, it's day one of the transformation to begin. We go through these tough journeys at times, just because all the transformation, the change management comes to this successful milestone. You're launching new innovation. And as you rightly said just a minute ago, integrations are the bedrock. In fact, you're right, 15 is probably an average. I know of one of the current implementations I just reviewed this morning. we have 26 different enterprise integrations, because this is a customer that's envisioning CLM truly as that fifth system of record and integrating it up and down. Uh, in terms of, again, go live, very consistent, that same leadership that got us started on this journey needs to stay engaged and communicate that broadly, right? Because instead of a few that designed and architected the system, now it's available to all. So you want to make sure that communication and the why we did this in the first place is clearer. Second, the UX and the context will evolve. And what we found is all customers learn, in the sense, when they start adopting the system day one versus day 30 to day 60 to day 180 to ongoing, there is evolution of what should we do with the UX? What if we had only 3 steps versus 8, and here we need maybe 8? Making sure that's par for the course. So understanding that, expecting that, yields in better experience and confidence to the team. And then third and the last one is, again, ongoing monitoring, tracking, right? Because it's a software platform. And plus, as I just said, we integrate with multiple enterprise systems which are on their own release management and evolution journey. So making sure you align all of that and treat it like a transformation program, that this is just step one and you have the next step 8 to go through. I think that's where most of the customers that have been super successful will do.
Yeah. Well, Manish, thank you so much. I know so many of our customers are lucky to have you on the journey to through the implementation, through day one and beyond of their transformation. So thank you so much for being here today and for being such a great partner to Icertis.
Thank you so much, Bernadette. Thanks for so much for having us and having CloudMoyo. Really appreciate it. Thank you.